Yes, listeners, good morning to you. And as per usual, it's another bright and sprightly Wednesday morning. And of course, after that 9 o'clock news, every Wednesday morning, it is the conversation with the RGPF. And let me remind you, if you see something, hear something, know something, what do I say? Say something about it, because it might just be that final piece of the puzzle that we are looking for to either solve a crime, investigate it, or maybe just to able to give you some more vital information. Yeah, so let's work together. It's a brotherly love and approach as we go forward to make sure that our sweet Grenada is crime free. I know that's a tall mandate. Of course, I am aware of that. But as per usual, I love to say and I encourage that it's one thing to know that a crime is or had occurred within your environs, but just the fact of that crime is a different thing, you know. So, yes, our objective, our main drive is how can we help you to be better prepared so that if you are confronted with such a situation, how do you best protect yourself, your loved ones, and whoever you may come into contact with? While the program is directly from the Eastern Division, however, wherever you are, there is something in it for you. And as we say in our local language, take the meat, throw away the bone. You might just able to take something of that program to say to someone that might be coming to Grenville, Labe, for Carnival 2024. And as you know, this weekend is Rainbow City weekend. So we are going to give you all or most of the information we think is important or necessary for you who intend to travel within the town of Grenville and just come to enjoy big city Labi. So stick and stay to Real FM. It is the conversation with the RGPF, and of course, I am none other than Sergeant Grant from the Community Relation Department of the Eastern Division. We go right back with a little of a jamu, our theme song. My guest is already in studio. Those of you who are looking or streaming online, my guest is already with me. So we'll just go right back into our theme song, and when we come back, I'll do that introduction and hit right on with the conversation. Stick and stay.
I want to say a prayer for the school teachers, but they are the ones who shape the children's future. A special prayer goes out for the musicians, and me Rasta brethren song here in Babylon. I pray for the poor and needy, Father have some mercy. Hey, Father, I pray for the farmers who go into torment and horrors. Oh, Father, I pray for every fisherman who risking their life in the ocean. Oh, Father, I pray for the elders and the little babies. I pray for the prisoners and each and every one in my country.
Of course, listeners, we are praying for one and all. And in a time like this, Carnival, we do need your prayers and we are praying for you also. So we go straight into the conversation with the RGPF. And as I said, my guest is already in studio. We'll be taking this morning's program two-phase, where we'll look at the operation approach or the operation order for Carnival 2024 and its related activities for the Eastern Division. Now, normally it's a norm for Eastern Division with the conversation when there is a festive season that we have a member of our administrative team from the Eastern Division that's going to speak to you, our listeners, as to our expectation of you and also to enlighten you as to what your expectation of us should be around such time. And after that, we'll go into the traffic aspect for Rainbow City, which is this weekend, Sunday and Monday. And also that same approach would remain for Carnival Monday and Tuesday. So I have the traffic chief for the Grenville Police Station here with me. And I also have the 2IC of the Eastern Division in studio with me. And I'll go right on to the 2IC for the Eastern Division, ASP Trevor Rodney. Of course, he's no stranger. Good morning to you, sir.
Hey, good morning. Good morning, listeners. It's indeed a pleasure to be on the program this morning. It is always our pleasure to bring information to the general public to make policing a relatively easy job and, of course, the citizens of the nation safe. So it is always a pleasure to provide such information.
Oh, thank you, sir. And good morning to you, Sergeant, and how are you?
Good morning to you, Sergeant Grant, and our listening public. I am Sergeant Thomas, traffic officer. This morning, I'm here to just speak to you about the traffic arrangement. I will touch a little bit on some of the prevalent offenses and just to give some other overview of what is expected from the patrons who will be at the Granville during the Carnival and Rainbow City period.
Thank you so much. So at this time, listeners, we will come back to Sergeant Thomas momentarily. But as I indicated, we want to take a dive into that operational approach for us within the Eastern Division. And bear in mind that the Eastern Division covers from Hermitage Police Station down to St. David's, with Birch Grove and Grenville being its head station. But wherever you are, the information disseminated here this morning will be meaningful and worthwhile to you. All we ask of you is that you take what's important, and at the same time, you may just want to share some of that information with your colleagues, with your loved ones, with your friends, because it will be important, right? So back to you, Sergeant. ASP Rodney. As per usual, by now our listeners know that, except if they are a new listener, that whenever we have a major festival or any major activity,
Right.
that we have what is called an operation order that guides the functioning of officers and also enlightens our listeners or persons we come into contact with as to some of the do's or don'ts or guidelines as we go forward.
Yeah, of course.
In light of that, can you explain some of the operational posture for Carnival 2024 that will be employed by the Eastern Division within that period, bearing in mind that we have Rainbow City this weekend and following Carnival the next weekend?
Yeah, of course. And let me use it also as a teachable moment for you listeners and members of the public, because you would find that our approach would be different to our routine policing approach. And that is because anytime there is a mass crowd event, we definitely have to employ different strategies in order to ensure peace and safety, orderliness of the activities. And therefore, things are going to roll out differently. And so just to have you understand why you may see certain things happening because of the policing of a mass crowd event, meaning Rainbow City celebrations, as alluded to, and the National Carnival celebrations. And of course, the Eastern Division has a responsibility to ensure that the celebrations happen in peace and safety of all who would be involved, revelers as well as spectators. And therefore, with that background, it's important to let you know why we police in the way that we are going to do. Because we have a mandate to maintain law and order in the day-to-day activities, and of course, for the people throughout the state of Grenada and Carriacou and Pitimatnik, specifically this morning dealing with the Eastern Division. We have the mandate to ensure effective crowd control in all of the venues of the mass crowd events. We have the responsibility to ensure effective vehicular and pedestrian control on the roadways and in the vicinity of the events that are going to happen. Hence, traffic would be here to provide detailed information with regard to this. We have a responsibility to improve our speed of response to reports and crime of any sort within the activities, within and without the activities. We have a responsibility for effective management, security and parking controls of vehicles attending these masquerade event. And that is why you find that some areas under normal circumstances where you used to park, you would not be able to park as I indicated. So just to give you perspective on why we have a certain posture. And in that posture, we'd find that we are going to effect vehicular checkpoints where vehicles and persons would be checked robustly, so to speak. We would have you would be stopped from time to time to give direction, whether it be for traffic control or to ensure security and safety of the persons attending these events. You may find from time to time different approaches would happen in terms of policing posture. You may find we saying to you, because of what the law says, that you should not be wearing certain type of clothing where you can be mistaken for police officers, and therefore, if you're not attired if you are attired in uniform wear that is not prescribed by law, you may be asked to. So these are some of the things that you ought to expect if they are not in conformity with the law, and just to lay the foundation for how we are going to approach the policing of these events.
Right. So I realize that the mandate is pretty heavy,
It
but
is.
it's nothing new to the functioning of policing.
Well, of course, but it is important to emphasize because based on our experience, there are some persons, for one reason or the other, that would violate some of the things that is prohibited by law.
Yes, certainly.
Mm-hmm.
And looking at that and understanding the posture that the police is looking forward to for those activities re-Carnival, are there any current threats or challenges in relation to Carnival 2024 and its related activities?
Right. So there are no known threat to the 2024 Carnival celebrations. However, we must be mindful that the celebration, by its nature, will involve all kinds of people.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, spectators, local, you have regional and international with different intentions and motive. One cannot overlook that. So the threat of harm is likely. Some persons or groups use this opportunity to settle scores and so forth. So although there are no specific threat, but because of the amount of persons in varying degrees, amounts, and of course background, nationality, that is a potential. Bearing in mind, we've seen in some of the events that went on, the masquerade events, I want to describe it as masquerade. So you understand it's a different context to the ordinary operations of things. We've seen some squabbles here and there. We've seen some fights here and there. So we are definitely prepared to respond to minimize, if not prevent, what we've seen so far. So every event gives us an opportunity to kind of go back to the drawing board or to better position ourselves so that we can meet the demands to ensure peace and safety at all times.
I'm so happy that you are able to draw back on some of the past activities that would have went on pre-Carnival.
Right.
In light of that, what are some of the legislations that guides and support the action of police both pre and during Carnival?
Right. So there are a number of pieces of legislation that gives the police authority to exercise its power to regulate the Carnival activities. And of course, the Grenada Statutory Rules and Orders, Carnival Statutory Rules and Orders, 1990. And I want to speak specifically of two areas. It says, A, during the Carnival, no person shall, and I want to stress shall, appear dressed, one, in the uniform prescribed for the police or any unit of the police force, unless that person is a serving member of the police force or unit thereof. Let me break that down. It means that now you're seeing a lot of people wearing the military-like apparel. Now, if any of that military-like apparel that is being worn these days, as the law says, represent a serving member of any department within the police force or any uniform whatsoever, then it becomes an offense, and we're going to take action to ensure that that doesn't happen. Because what you don't want is for a number of persons who would, and then wear this clothing, and something happens, and you mistaken that person for a police officer, or that person appear to be a police officer and performing the duty, appear to be performing the duty that the police supposed to be performing, then you have an issue right there. You can use that opportunity to commit serious crimes. In any costume which might be mistaken for the uniform prescribed for the police force or for any unit within the police force. So these two are extremely important. And portray or represent or appear wearing any costume which portrays or represents in any manner whatsoever any deity of a living religion, or portraying any event in a manner likely to bring into disrepute, ridicule, or contempt any religion practiced in the state. So, for instance, certain religions, certain dress is represented to state leadership or authority or what have you. And so persons shouldn't be dressed in that where the intention is to bring disrepute, ridicule, or contempt to any religion practicing Grenada. So these things are extremely important, because during the carnival, people, they would want to portray, anything. So it has to be. So the law specifically speaks to that. You have a number of other pieces of legislation. For instance, the Public Order Act, Section 7 is instructive in that regard. It says any person who in any public place or a public meeting uses threatening, abusive, or insulting words or behavior with intent to provoke a breach of the peace, or whereby a breach of the peace is likely to result, shall be guilty of an offense. So, as you know, there are certain songs that once they sung, they would provoke people. Gunshot for the police, gunshot for the police. That's and so forth with the other
derogatory songs.
Derogatory, yes, to provoke arbitrary peace, and that is important. Yeah. That can lead. We marching down the police station today, and of course they would use the F sharp and so forth and the C major to give it some to give it some strength, so to speak. So these things are important. We need to be watchful. The Firearm, of course, would come into discharging the firearm, or possession of a firearm in a public place without a license. Even though you have a license, there are certain things that guard how the firearm is discharged in the lawful shooting of a trespassing animal under the direction of some civil or military authority authorized to give such direction, or with the permission of the minister. So there are specific circumstances. So even that is controlled within the stop and search. That is where we get our authority, both from the Police Act and from the Firearms Act, to stop and search. A police officer may, without warrant, stop any vehicle in which he reasonably suspects any firearm or ammunition is being conveyed, and may search such vehicle and the driver thereof and any other person therein. Remember, and that is why I lay the foundation for why we do what we do. We have, as you mentioned, we have a heavy mandate, and it's a mass crowd event. and we, once something goes wrong in a mass crowd event, there is the potential for escalation or much damage or destruction. So that is why we would employ those strategies to ensure, create an environment to ensure or respond efficiently and effectively to anything that has the potential to disrupt.
I'm so happy as to how you bring across the legislations and give our listeners that snippet as it regards to what the legislation covers and bringing in the real case scenario of activities.
Right.
But in light of the legislations that some of which you have alluded to, and
Yes.
there are others
Yeah, of
that
course.
we know about, what are the police powers?
Right. So the police, the law gives the police enormous powers. Nevertheless, we exercise our powers with discretion, especially in the context of Carnival, where people sometimes they're intoxicated and so forth, and that is why you would find some restraint and tact is being exercised. Restraint and tact, are being exercised to ensure the law. But the police has the power to arrest without warrant for any offense that is committed within the events, and of course that power would be, and let me just give you from the Criminal Code, Section 8 of the Criminal Code. It says, whoever is found committing any summary offense against the person or against property may be arrested without warrant by a constable or any person whom a constable may call to his assistance, or by the owner of the property on or with respect to which the offense is committed, or by his servant or any other person authorized. And sometimes they talk about the civilian arrest, but the civilian arrest has to be initiated by the police. Not technically, the police gives direction to the civilian to execute that arrest, as it says here. So the police can say, John, I need your assistance to help me deal with that. And in the context of a mass crowd event that may be necessary. Because remember, you have you want to, as much as possible and as quickly as possible, to de-escalate anything that has the potential to spin off into anything. Also, I want to point out that it says it speaks to person and property. We've had experiences in the past of destruction of property. I mean, if you deface people wall and so on, some people want to mash up the police signs that are placed to control traffic, and some people enforce the barrier. They want to pull down the barrier and things of that nature. Property, that is also covered in the legislation. So play your mass, do your thing, and enjoy yourself, but do not violate the law. And that is why the law is there to control how you behave. Because you could have mass, you could roll on the ground, you could whine, you could do what you have to do, and you don't have to interfere with anybody's property, or you don't have to commit any offense against anybody. You don't. Any offense you should commit really in that time is against the music. Whine down low, juke and jam, and so forth. Put your hand in the air, put your foot in the air, and so forth. You can. It's important to emphasize that. Yes.
Yes, Rirani. As per usual, your twist towards bringing across information always catch the attention of our listeners, and I do employ that. Additionally, I think your experience of prosecuting do come to the fore in regards to that explanation that you give in terms of the powers of the police.
Right.
But let's just draw back a bit. Earlier on, you spoke of the posture,
yes,
and also the challenges or potential threats that is envisioned. What are the likely actions of the police in response to such?
Well, the thing is, we always the the posture of the police is always better proactive. That has proven to be so. We would be proactive, and that is one of the means of being proactive. Letting listeners know or reminding them, as the case might be, listen, it's carnival. We know it's carnival. We know what happens in carnival. Nevertheless, the law remains. So the laws, and that is something I want to stress, the laws are not suspended at carnival. So every one of the relevant legislation remains in effect. And therefore, that must be borne in mind. So, and that is why that is one of our proactive measure. And our main proactive measure to come and we bombard these radio stations and of course the social media and all of that with the information that we're giving now, so that persons would be mindful that you can play your carnival and not. The other thing that we would do is, even before, as a matter of fact, right now, as we speak, we would have operations, we would have checks, we would have increased patrols to prepare, as quote unquote, prepare the ground. Now, these activities sends a message to the general public that, listen, the police has a certain posture this time around or going forward, because there's heightened activity preceding the major event. So psychologically, it says to would-be offenders, well, they would probably shop. If I decide to carry me weed 1 o'clock, they might just catch me because they're on the move. Or if I decide to move with my guns 3 o'clock, they might just catch me because they would show up anytime. So these are some of the things that and we found them to work before. So we are employing strategies that worked before, and because many of the years we delivered almost incident-free carnival, just minor little scuffle here and there. But over the years we've done it, and therefore these strategies that work, these proactive strategies that we employed, they right now in effect. Somebody might say, well, we're giving away our strategies. No, it's better to inform people, let them know, so they're aware. So from the position of experience as a prosecutor, I would say to the magistrate, Your Worship, since June, we have been on the radio and we let the members of the public know what is expected in relation to the law, just in case, and so. I using that as a background to suggest to the magistrate that, listen, these people must know. We on social media, we wherever they see us, and so forth. So they ought to know that they need to behave themselves.
All right.
So it works.
But Esperone, I know you alone can take the whole program with the wealth of knowledge and experience that is within your belt. Mm-hmm. But what warning do you wish to give or to convey to our individuals, to our listeners more so, as to the intent in displaying or having in their possession any illegal articles, such as offensive weapon, or more so the imitation firearm during carnival? Right.
So to possess imitation firearm mean what you have real, or we call a real gun, and you might have a gun that your intention is to make one believe that it is a real gun, and the intention is to harm and put people in fear. Yeah. So to have that in your possession is illegal. And therefore, we warning members of the public, offensive weapon, knives and cutlasses, and anything that you adapt to use with intention to be used to harm persons and so on, that is considered to be an offensive weapon. So we're saying to you, do not take these things from your home or from wherever. We've had experience in the past where you take them and hide them behind bridge and hide them behind place. So just in case a fight breaks out, you can run and reach them. Do not bring these illegal activities into the environment, into into Rainbow City activities, into Carnival activities. Do not bring them. Do not come with a mindset to provoke a breach of the peace or to commission a breach of the peace. Come with a mindset to have a good time, with and being in self-control. Don't come and say, well, you get a drunk, and when you get a drunk, you're bouncing down people and you're doing all kind of foolishness. Do not come with that mindset. So sometimes we speak about what you can physically do, but we need to speak about what you can mentally do too, psychologically. Say, I'm going to have clean fun. I'm going to have a carnival. I'm bringing my girlfriend, and my girlfriend straight a jamming on for the night. And so you go with that kind of mindset. And so the warning is to members of the public, not only would-be offenders, parents, children, work environment, speak to your staff, because this thing has to be bombarded. If you bombard people with information, generally speaking, they would respond to the information. So you have to, everybody has a responsibility. It's not just one. So you know some guys, and you hear them when they're practicing their job, they say they go mash down the police station, they go break down the gate. Speak to them. Home, parents, authority figures, community people, speak to them and say, listen, let's have a clean carnival. Let's let Grenada remain, the Isle of Spice we know. Let Grenada remain incident-free, crime-free, because we are carrying competing mathematics to build back that would take a lot of $1 million. So we want to have a good image. And that is the kind of language we have to speak to people, because sometimes they don't understand, All they see, this boy interfered with me, and I'll catch him Juve morning. And then you don't care what happens afterwards. And then you, the same person that create the problem, put a bad image on the thing, then you come in tomorrow and say, oh, the government don't give man nothing, and the government broke, and all kind of story like that. If you don't break it down, so it's a grand. If you don't break it down, so they won't pick it up. Sometimes we lose so much high floating language and they don't pick it up. But if you break it down like that, you're talking the language, the chances are there's a high probability that they'll share the information. So
But what I like about your presentation, son, I like how you end your segment in that you do not just say what the police will be doing, but you also allude to what they expect of you. And even those of you who say, you know what, I'm not going there because I don't like what's going on, but you're admonishing them that they have a responsibility to speak to those who are going out and enjoy the culture, enjoy themselves. But I just like the twist. So while, yes, you're advising us to do not come with the offensive weapon, because law enforcement say zero tolerance towards offensive weapon, and also considering that today brings the end of the amnesty period for firearms, and there is a new firearm legislation in place, which is a whole different topic. We are aware, but just to say, you had enlightened our listeners as to their end or their side of the coin as to what they should do for Carnival. And listeners, of course, when we say to you, if you see something, hear something, know something, we urge you to say something. That's a different spin to that slogan that I use.
Yes, definitely.
You have a responsibility, listeners, to encourage others as to it. So right now, listeners, the intention was to take a break. We forego that because we have information to disseminate. And I'll just use an infomercial segment to speak to our parents and guardians before we bring on traffic. So parents and guardians, I want to remind you as we go steadfastly into the Carnival, the hype of Carnival. There are a lot of kiddies activities coming on. I think as of tomorrow there is one, and go right up to Kiddies Carnival. The dates are not too straight with me now, but what I want to implore on your parents and guardians, that you speak to your children. Ensure that they have proper supervision. Ensure as much as possible they are dressed appropriately. Not just the girls, but the boys also. And also ensure that there is a contact. In the event something goes wrong, they know how to reach out to mommy or daddy or to that person that is responsible for them. I cannot overemphasize adults, parents, guardians, and you children. You have a responsibility to know your parent and guardian contact number. And bear in mind, if there is a problem at an activity, don't just talk to Tom, Dick, and Harry at the activity. Go to try to get yourself to a police officer, one of the organizers. Most time they have a t-shirt, they have a label. Find out their names, look at the tag that they are wearing, ask a question, seek a phone call, go backstage, speak to see if you can get some information to the person with the mic, and you may just be helped. Not everybody is there ready to protect you, so seek information from reputable persons and always seek to find out his or her name that you speak with. So that has been the operational segment of this morning's program. And it's now 1:45, Sergeant Thomas. And we'll go straight into the traffic management. Of course, Grenville, La Bay, big city, has always been that medium. Outside of festival, Sergeant Thomas, Grenville is a hub or the transit point from north to south. Agree?
Agree.
Right. And same so is that of festival. Everybody come up, and Grenville St. Andrews is the only place I have Rainbow City around festive time. So let's go straight into the traffic arrangement. But before we look at the arrangement, which I know would take up some time for you, what are some of the prevalent offenses, or can you speak to any of those that one may or like to look at for Carnival Rainbow City as we go steadfastly?
Good morning again to our listening public. I just want to take you on to some points which I believe you can look at, offenses which commit very frequently. And we've been seeing a trend in our recent time where we have a number of persons being charged for failing to wear seatbelt.
Mm-hmm.
Seatbelt is an offense which can be avoided because your vehicle is fitted with a seatbelt. So once you get behind your wheel, I will encourage you to fasten that belt once it's fitted in that vehicle. The penalty for not wearing a seatbelt is $100. And if the matter go to court and you've been found guilty, you can charge up to $1,000. And if we are saying that we are in challenging time financially, why you will go in your vehicle and refuse to wear your seatbelt, knowingly that the officers will be outside and they will be checking? So I just want to highlight seatbelts as one of them. Also, I want to look at driving under the influence of alcohol. We recognize that persons been driving or drinking and driving on our nation's road. We want to strongly recommend, if you will be driving over the carnival period, please find a designated driver, somebody who will drive your vehicle and not been drinking. So if you know you're going out to a fete, ensure that you find a designated driver. Even if the penalty is not that as steep as a seatbelt, but it still have a cost. And it still have a lot of inconvenience which will go with it. I also want to look at the use of cell phones while driving, the distraction which it causes on our nation's road. And as a result, we can tie in some of those accidents we have in with persons using cell phone or devices while driving. It is very important to be focused on our nation's road. We know our roads are winding. Most places they are narrow. So your judgment is very, very important. So how you approach your day when you're about to leave home, how you structure that transition from one point to another. So in the event that a phone call is coming through, you can avoid taking that call and get to an area where it is safe and return the call instead of using the phone while driving. The penalty for a vehicle which carry the letter P, what we call private vehicles, is $150 or $3,500 as the maximum penalty. However, if you are driving a hired vehicle, it's a bit different. And it's a lot more than the 100 penalty we have for a hired vehicle. So for the hired vehicle, the penalty for that is $3,500. And we see from time to time bus operators spend some time on the phone, and they will find the police. They will say sometimes you hear that the police continue to harass them. But if you just think about what they are doing, they will recognize they are the one at fault, because they have the knowledge, they have the information. And look at today, we are helping them to and reminding them that these are things they should not do while driving. So even as passengers, you're on the bus and you recognize that a driver is on his cell phone, I believe it's your responsibility to call out to that driver, because your life could be at risk while sitting in that vehicle.
Thank you so much. That was very detailed. Of course, you're a traffic cop. We'll go straight into the traffic arrangement or management for the town of Grenville. And in the event that persons need a recap, or because I know the streets, the name of the streets can be a bit baffled sometimes, what I'll endeavor to do is to ask of the management of Real FM if they can publish it for us within their community blog. So we'll go straight into, and I'll ask of you, can you explain the traffic arrangement or management plan for the town of Grenville in relation to Rainbow City and also for the Carnival 2024?
All right, thank you again. Well, it is for those who frequent Grenville during those festivals, the plan remains the same. But to break it down for those who will be coming to Grenville, it is expected when you're coming to Grenville, you will meet some road signs, and so in some cases you will meet police officers. All right, the areas we have for one way. So we will start with one way. So Sanders Street will be a one way from its junction with Jubilee Street onto Subi's direction. We will also look at Rivulet Lane. Rivulet Lane will be a one way. For persons who traverse that area will know that's a very narrow piece of road. And oftentimes, when signs are erected, persons will disobey those signs. And I'm employing on you all this year, please follow our traffic rules, all right? Because it creates unnecessary congestion when you disobey the rules and you meet another vehicle coming from the opposite direction, and it makes it difficult for both vehicles to able to pass in those narrow streets. I will look at the no parking area. So bearing in mind, we have areas in the town of Grenville which we would not want you to park. So we say no parking will allow on the following roads. Sanders Street, from its junction of Jubilee Street to the bridge in both directions. And when we refer to the bridge, we talk in the area which we know as Trenchtown, that's going towards the bus terminus. That's the Sanders Street, that area, on both sides of the road, we will have no parking. Rivulet Lane, as I mentioned earlier on, Rivulet Lane, based on the nature of the road there, it will be no parking on both sides of the road. Gladstone Road. Gladstone Road, on the left side of the road, from its junction, St. James Street to the junction of Salisbury Road, we will have no parking in that area. Question which one may ask, in terms of the law, what gives us that authority to speak on no parking? And that comes under section 31 of the Motor Vehicle and Road Traffic Act. That is the section that gives the police the authority to say where we should not park, and if you park, what will be the penalty, what goes with it.
So in terms of no parking, are there any other areas beside Gladstone and Rivulet that is designated as no parking?
Yeah, so we have George Patterson Street will remain no parking. So as you know, presently it is a no parking, so it will remain no parking, and that include other areas as Ben Jones Street, next to the market, then the intersection from George V Street to Ben Jones Street, onto Seaton James Street, onto Ben Jones Street and George Patterson Street. So that is the area for those who is familiar with Grenville, what we call locally the back street of Grenville, or around the market square. So all the roads what leads around the market square is designated as no parking area. All right. So for persons who are visiting Grenville, that is something you will have to learn quickly so that you will not get into any breach with the law.
And we have some no entry signs. No entry signs. Where would some of those be erected?
All right, so no entry signs will be placed on Durham Road to avoid vehicles from entering Village Road onto Cookie Road. No entry will be placed at the junction of Sanders Street and Village Road. No entry will be placed at the junction of Gladstone Road. And these are areas in which it's normally been once we have any major activity in the town of Grenville.
Right.
So it's nothing new. It is just a continuation of what we've been doing over the years to ensure that we have a free flow of traffic and pedestrian alike.
But Sergeant Thomas, with all of those parking and no entries and so forth, the big question is, where can I park? Be it a VIP or just someone who intends to come and enjoy the activity?
All right, so we have areas which we look at. That's by the old church area. So you'll have that area for parking. Gladstone Road, Canal Road, onto the special ed school. These areas we have designated parking there. The bus terminus will be for VIP. That is in the gravel area on the bus terminus. Griffin Lane will also be an area which we have for parking.
And you can't have no activity, mass activity, as the ASP says, without an emergency route. Is there one for those activities and traffic arrangement in the town of Grenville?
Yes, there is an emergency route. And our emergency route, we always look at it by what is known as, or previous known as Batambola. That's on Gladstone Road, the intersection to go out of the town of Grenville. So it's a clear and a straight path right off the road, this intersection right at Gladstone, where we can easily move from one point to another in any emergency, which may occur during our festive time.
Right. So listeners, I know you're saying, well, I can't remember those streets, I wonder where exactly you're talking about. As I said earlier, before Sergeant Thomas delved into the traffic management, I endeavored to have a conversation with the management of Real FM, and as such, we'll be asking of them to announce our traffic management plan for Rainbow City and also that of Carnival as we go steadfastly. So at least. And also, it don't hurt. Call Grenville Police Station, walk into Grenville Police Station, any officer you meet on the street within the town of Grenville, and inquire of them. So when you come, you know. Because while Sergeant Thomas did not say it, of course, the officers will be out, the wardens will be out in full force to ensure that the streets and signs are adhered to and respected as erected. I want to encourage one and all to be vigilant, protect yourself. Yes, I hear you asking, how comes I hear nothing of personal protection? We had that last week and week before. So this week we just look at the traffic arrangement and also that of the operation posture. I love that phrase for you, our listeners, and also the police as you look onto us. Of course, it has been the conversation with the Rgpf, and of course, for sure, you see something, hear something, know something, we ask you to say something, and in so doing, we make Grenada Caricom Petit Martin that safe place to be. Again, see you next Wednesday with the final program pre-Carnival 2024. God bless you. And to all my guests, I say thank you for your time. It was a job well done. God bless. Management and staff of Real FM, thanks again as we continue to partner together.
The Division of Social Services within the Ministry of Social and Community Development, Housing and Gender Affairs held a recent workshop in nurturing and meal preparation for cooks. In the region, in Trinidad and Tobago, the National Service Program of Trinidad and Tobago was launched on Tuesday by the Ministry of Youth Development and National Service. The program facilitates opportunities for participants to develop and demonstrate good citizenship, improve personal and social well-being, and acquire marketable skills.
There are many of our young people who still are not taking the opportunity being given to them by the state to develop themselves so that they can be productive citizens in this country.
Minister of Youth Development and National Service, Foster Cummings.